Hey guys, Luke here with Pro Co-op Agronomy. Hey, coming to you today from inside our conference room here in Scobie. As you know, it's been a little windy outside, to say the least. So rather than doing a video in the field, we thought we'd shoot it here. Today we're going to talk about decisions for post-emergent spraying in a tough year. I feel like the more baseline info, the better we're going to be on wisely deciding where to spend money or not. A couple things we got to look at each time. Obviously, we got to evaluate the stand's potential. Is it still looking good after all that heat and wind, all that? There's a lot of fields around that actually look pretty good considering. So depending on the rainfall situation over the weekend and everything, let's pivot from there. The crop stage, that's also crucial. With weed control, the windows might differ quite a bit. So you don't want to add anything that's going to stress the plant out even further than what it already is. There's ways to pivot and choose active ingredients that aren't going to be quite as hard for the plant to metabolize if it still is a drought. Weed control, so that's obviously where most of the post-emergent spraying comes from. I'd encourage everybody not to blindly cut. We need to customize field by field. Your spend on X field over here, it's got great potential, the stand's looking well, but there's lots of weeds. The dollar per acre you put into that might vary widely from Y field over here, where you can save the investment and only target what needs to be targeted with a cheaper tank mix. Even if the crop is too far gone from what the potential would be, I still think it's really important to prevent an increase in the weed seed bank. It's just absolutely crucial. Skipping 1 year can cost you for years to come. So once we get into choosing what we're going to do, we know that we got a crop, we know it's worth saving. You might have 5 different products out there. There's a lot of different premixes, some with the same mode of action, some with others. Let's use fluroxapyr as an example. You might have 5 of these products that claim kochia control, and they do. But we need to evaluate, what are the secondary weeds? What else is going on there besides that? 2-inch kochia like this is a lot different to control than 5-inch kochia like this. And 1 per square foot is a lot different than 25 per square foot. So just because something's labeled for control or suppression of whichever species, we really need to think about the scenario that we're going into. Are they actively growing or just surviving? Contact killers versus systemic, they're going to operate a little differently on being effective on that weed control. So once you decide that, and we can work through this together, even if you're deciding to spend $5 an acre or $25 an acre, you want that to work. It doesn't really matter. Adjuvant type and water rates and droplet size, those are crucial in making things work, especially when we have low relative humidity. Getting that active ingredient onto the plant and then into the plant, once that decision is made, it's more important than ever to ensure that application gets done correctly. So think about canopy penetration and placement of the solution first. Get it to where those weeds are. Once it's on a leaf, different categories of adjuvants either might melt through that waxy surface of the cuticle or spread and stick over it to allow that droplet to be wetter longer, or it might even, depending on things with combinations of ammonium sulfate and other options that we talked about, might promote plant uptake. So we really got to make sure that adjuvant selection is correct. Remember, weeds are one thing, but keeping plants alive is another. Both are equally important, and you won't replace rain. But if there is enough moisture, is there something you can do to economically protect the plant's ability to continue on? For example, you might decide there aren't enough grasses out there to where you applied very little potassium, which is important in regulating water and stalk strength. And so maybe it makes sense to not spend money on a grass control herbicide, but pivot and use half of that grass control budget to put towards foliar or potassium if the stand is there. Every nutrient performs a certain physiological function within the plant. Knowing the balance based off of what you started with, it's key to deciding where to go forward with. Biostimulants, they're a growing category of things out there, but they are a slippery slope. There are lots of different modes of action per se, and categories of those. Some are living organisms and some are synthetic or dead plant material. But plant health products can't rescue things. When they're used correctly, however, they can help Plants upregulate or downregulate genes or hormones that control certain functions like stomata openings, cell elongation, division, or even abscisic acid buildup that can occur when things get hot and stressed and dry. And we want to utilize some of these tools that are proven through different research programs and replicated in environments like ours to make a decision if that makes sense to try to throw something into the mix. Talk to us about sorting through that. I'll be honest, it's a very noisy and emerging technology. That group of biostimulants, there's a lot of promise there, but there's a lot of things to watch out for and make sure it's done properly. Certain fungicides have their place, as well, and they can affect plant health almost in a similar action as nutrition and some of the biostimulant modes of action. But first, we need to have the host, the environment, and the pathogen present to warrant pulling the trigger. More to come on that later. When we get into the post-crop flowering situation, we can talk on that, evaluate the weather at the time, and make a decision from there. So in summary, we live here, we know the land, and we can be to your field quickly. And I think it's just really important to manage your risk wisely. We can help do that. There's many ways to get to the same goal. Weed control, not all things are created equal, and not all applications are created equal. So we want to help you make game day decisions based on what you have within your budget. And like I said earlier, spend money wisely, not just a blanket cut, but cut where we can and invest where it makes sense. And, we really strive hard to make sure this is backed by multiple resources and opinions of those people that have been in these different scenarios. So again, let's save where we can, invest wisely where it makes sense, and good luck out there. Thank you.